Let's talk about game design document. People call it GDD, even some people call it gaming Bible. We say it is important. It is a place where you describe everything related to your game, the mechanics, characters, user interface, and all the stuff. So this is a places you can communicate your game with your investor, with your audience player, with your teammates, between the designer, artists, and developers. But the thing is, you want to treat this document as a living organism. So traditionally, the old rigid way to deliver a game design document is like a 200-page linear document. That approach makes no sense nowadays. But anyway, I put some traditional design documents in D2L so you can take a look at it, learn history and basic idea and where we came from. So what we're going to do in today's game development industry, normally we have more modern tools at our disposal. For example, the Obsidians, Notion, Miro, etc. So various wikis, you can pick one. You can organize all your information in a more nonlinear structure. So that is fit better to humans' perception and cognition organization. Also, this is easier to pitch to your player and audience. So you store section for each specific mechanism and link everything together with hyperlinks. That's today what people normally do. So at the very beginning, when you work on this game design document, you don't need a massive document. Maybe think about in a linear way, 10 to 15 pages will suffice. Also, within these pages, there are lots of visuals and graphics. There's no need to make it over 100 pages immediately, but the principle is you absolutely need one. So you need to get it done to make your team clear what your goal is and what your plan is for your team project. So here's a link about the idea one-page design in GDC Watch by Stone Labyrinth, which I highly recommend you watch it before you start work on your GDD. This will give you some good idea how you are going to organize your GDD in a smart and user-friendly way, okay? So this is a really great talk and really helpful to think about your own game design document. So let's come back. So for this template over here, this is only serve as a guideline for your GDD. You're afraid to follow this traditional linear approach, or I do encourage you to create a more one-page format with different tools, try to leverage visuals as best as you can so you can deliver your idea and your vision about your project the best and in a more compelling way, okay? So let's went through this GDD together. So first of all, definitely your game title. And at the top, we have a place to document all your changes of your document. So you can put the date, the version, and what changes you are made, put some notes here. So there are in total 9 parts of these template. The first one is an overview of your project. Here you want to briefly explain what the document is about and important who is behind the game. Imagine handling this document to an investor or a publisher. So this is absolutely the first thing they will say, so make it count. And second is game overview and vision. This section answer what are you building and why should people care. This really define the soul of your game. You can start with an elevator pitch, a couple of sentences as a game summary, and also a more longer paragraph with visuals to talk about the player journey. And then the important thing, your unique selling point, we also call it game pillars. So normally we want to keep it to 3 to 4, but never more than 5. So this is the second part. And the third part is the most important part in your game design document. Think about what your core gameplay design, what's your core game loop is. So this document is really helpful for you. So first of all, you want to write an essence statement about your core gameplay loop. You can think about it from three different perspectives: the goal, the action, the role to communicate with your player to help them grab the idea of your game just within one core sentence, to let them imagine their player experience. And then you can use a graph to create a core game loop diagram. For example, the core game loop for an RPG game is defeat enemy, reward, and level up. For a puzzle game, the core loop would be explore area, solve puzzles, and unlock new area. For arcade game, it's defeat, next level, defeat at next level. And then for a Pac-Man game, the core loop is eat a dot, next level, and eat dot, next level. Sometimes it can eat fruit, but it won't directly interfere with the core game loop. Besides, you can also add some subloop, like here. You can add a subloop between the defeat enemy and reward, or explore area and solve puzzles, so this can give your game more dynamic and complexity. Okay, so this is about the core game loop. And the relay part also involved player progression, control and input, difficulty and challenges, and also a feedback system, which connect to your UI design. So we will cover in the later section. And the fourth part is also really important. It's game mechanics and systems. It's about what systems are driving the game world under the hood. You need to explain all the rules, maybe economics, but it's optional depending on what kind of game you are going to build. And also the subsystem, some mechanics that can create depth and variety. So let's go back here. So the way you can do it is create a non-verb diagram. So regarding the game mechanics, you can think about using a diagram like this called non-verb diagram. So here is the example of Pac-Man. In this diagram, on the node is the nouns, is the important objects in your game. And between these nodes in the edge, it shows the verb that is the action player can take in this game. In this specific example for Pac-Man, the nouns include the player, the ghost, the dot, the fruit, and some more related to the system, like the scores, lives, and power palette. And then from these nouns, you can draw a line between any two nouns and use words to describe how they interact with each other. For example, we can see the ghost can chase the player can eat fruit, eat dodge to increase the score, so on and so forth. And you will notice that in this diagram, the player has the most arrows pointing to or away from it, since you generally want your game to revolve around your player and their action. So that's the basic principle when you create this diagram. If you find some other object has more action associated with it, so consider why that might be the case and see if you can shift back your focus to your player. Another important principle to apply for your mechanics is it's also important to try to focus on your core mechanic rather than introducing new mechanic. One example is the Mario. When they try to transfer their game from 2D to 3D, what makes them success is they focus on their core mechanics, that is the jump, but focus and make effort on making the jumping fun and interesting. Yeah, this is about the game mechanics and system. And then the fifth one is narrative, world, and characters. Here you explain all the themes, the setting of your world and game, the characters in your game, and their arcs. This is crucial even if your game isn't strictly story driven. This can ground your player in your game and make them more engaging, and also ground your game in meaning and consistency. The sixth part is level and encounter design. This breaks down the player journey through both time and space. You define how the levels are structured, how they are paced, how they are populated. Think of this as the content pipeline where gameplay, narrative, and systems all come together cohesively. So I have two links over here. So one way to think about or apply your level design is through the gray box prototype. So you may already have a sense and have an overview about these gray box, also called blockout, from last week's material. Know about the playtest, know about why we want to do blockout and how to evaluate from the flow balance, encounter design metrics from this different perspective, and also these case concepts. So this can help you when you build your game, both in developing mechanism and in level design. So for developing mechanics, think about if you're designing a new mechanic that really rely heavily on a physics engine, you would probably want to develop something inside your game engine to really get the full effect before you invest a large amount of time on creating the art assets, sound, and other elements of a game that do not directly impact mechanic you are designing. So this is important to test the physics with really simplified environment at the beginning. And also for level design, here is example. So at the left hand side, this is a gray box text level design of Kirby's Adventure, and the right is the final version. So you can see how these two match and the way they do it. Yeah, that's about the level design. And the seventh part is UI UX and accessibility. So this covers how players interact with the game outside of direct mechanics, especially through a screen and input depending on the devices you are going to deploy your game. It covers all menus, the head-up display, UI elements, and controls, and all user feedback. Basically, the way player perceive and interact with game. Nowadays, you also want to add accessibility option, which is kind of necessary in today's game to make the game more inclusive, such as colorblind option and helpers for QuickTime event. And the eighth part is technical and production specs. This is optional, definitely for our course project, and also if you're just starting out your game, this might also just optional. You can fill it later or just delete this part. But eventually, if you want to publish your game, you need to think about all this stuff like platform targets, engine you're going to use, plugins, pipeline, production schedule, monetization strategy, and the team structure. Once you know this information, just put them in. And the last but not least one, this is specific for this project, for this semester. So I want you to think about your delivery schedule of your project. So basically, think about starting planning from next week, that is September 29th. So we have basically 8 weeks to work on it. I expect the project is finished before the Thanksgiving break. I don't think you want to work on the Thanksgiving break, and the plan is we will do the presentation and playtesting during the week after Thanksgiving, so be prepared for that. And before the final game delivery, we also have 2 sprints for submit your work in progress. One is on October 19th and one is on November 9th, so prepare for that. You can use a Gantt chart to plot your schedule. So I put resources over here, so you can grab a chart you like to put in your game design document for this section.